Dream Team? It's your boy D Neal back with another reaction video, guys. Here we are with how Germans don't fit into American stereotypes of Europeans. Americans ask, what are Europeans? Before we jump into this, y'all know what I need y'all to do is hit that subscribe button, ring the notification bell, get a video a thumbs up so you suggested. Social media and Patreon, all up top. You don't subscribe to any of it. Put all the links in the description. All you gotta do is hit the link, follow me, talk to me, human. I talk back. You guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon and drop it in the comment section. What we got?
You're a what? You're European? Yeah. They're always kissing each other and they got real fancy food they're always eating way too late. And, they dress real funny. Just who they are.
That's always one of the go-tos when it comes to people imitating Americans. Either that or the ditzy white girl. I feel like that's oh my gosh, you're doing this, and know what I'm saying? I feel like those two are two of the go-tos. But all right,
just who they are.
I love it. Passport 2.
Hey guys, and welcome back to our channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany and sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Stereotypes. We all love them when they aren't about us, but we hate them when they are about us. Europeans have stereotypes of Americans, and Americans have stereotypes of Europeans. Some may generally be true, but more often than not, they are just completely wrong. In particular, when you try to stereotype an entire continent that is comprised of infinite numbers of cultures like Europe is, you are bound to get almost everything wrong. For example, after living in Germany for 2.5 years, I have observed many ways in which Germans are not stereotypical Europeans, at least from an American perspective of overly general.
I feel like it's hard to even stereotype a city, much less a state, a country, a continent. It's hard to, because you have so much different people who just operate differently. But keep it going. I hear what my guy said. Yeah, we probably get it completely wrong. Keep it
Stereotypical Europeans, at least from an American perspective of overly generalized European stereotypes. And that is exactly what we're going to talk about today in our video. Prominent in the continent, but inconsistent with the sentiment. So Americans definitely have specific stereotypes or ideas of specific European countries, and we do distinguish between them in many ways. For example, we know that a Greek and a German are exact opposites of each other. However, that doesn't stop us from making overarching broad generalizations of Europeans compared to the US that seem to more or less hold true in our heads. And Europeans definitely do this of the US as well. Europeans often distinguish stereotypes of Americans from the North and Americans from the South, but they still have their overarching stereotypes of the US as a whole that somewhat may hold true, although I, as an American from the South, might contest this because of our in-country rivalries with, say, California or with the North. So I guess what I'm trying to establish here at the beginning is we all do this, and we all do a poor job at accurately stereotyping. So for the first way in which Germans do not align with the stereotypical American stereotype of Europeans, when Americans think of Europeans meeting for the first time, or for well-established relationships seeing each other again, they often imagine two people leaning in for a kiss, one on one cheek and then the other. This is the epitome of European social culture to Americans, in stark contrast to our handshake and personal space-keeping culture. Now, I will put the caveat on that in particular the Midwest Midwest or the Southern United States, we do tend to sometimes be less strict about our handshakes and will much more freely hug family, friends, or people we are meeting for the first time, as opposed to some other parts of the US. But the European kissing culture typically does not happen. When we first moved to Europe, I was fully prepared to embrace the new culture we were in, and I assumed a big part of that was going to be kissing greetings. I was very nervous about not knowing the proper procedure of how many kisses to give or which side of the cheek to start on, but I was still very excited about being thrust into a different culture that meant I had to relearn how to behave in social meetings. However, it didn't take long to realize Germans are not European in this way. Somewhat disappointingly, we quickly learned that Germans are a firm handshake kind of culture and do not have kissing as their main component of greetings and goodbyes. Now, I say somewhat disappointingly, not because I wanted to kiss a lot of Europeans, and in fact, many of the cultures that greet by kissing don't actually literally kiss, but rather just move in close and make the noise without literally planting one on the other. But because I learned that Germans, for the most part, just do things similar to what I was used to, it wasn't the new and exciting experience that I had imagined interacting with Europeans would be. But I have learned that throughout the rest of Europe, the kissing culture is extremely wide ranged as to how many kisses are given, how it is given, the types of relationships that are giving kisses, etc. So I would like to know from you guys, if you do this in your culture, how do you do it? And for Germans, how do you handle the difference in culture when you travel to other European countries where you may be put in a situation where this is expected? Real quick, I wanted to...
That's an interesting aspect. Like, how do you, when you have to travel to other European countries where that's expected, like, how do you handle that? Yeah, that's just completely different. I'm laughing because I can imagine him like nervous, because I would be as well, like nervous about like, how do I do it? Am I gonna get it right? Or I don't want to insult anybody. Like, and so it's just funny. But yeah, the kissing on the cheek thing, you see it happen in some countries in Europe, but like you said, it's not a thing that just happens all throughout the entire continent of Europe. But keep it rolling.
Other European countries where you may be put in a situation where this is expected. Real quick, I wanted to say that just like we couldn't make these videos without our German audience, we more specifically really appreciate the support from our patrons over on Patreon for supporting our videos as well. If you would like to know how you can support our channel, I will leave a link in the description to our Patreon page, but also you simply hitting that like and subscribe button also really helps support us as well. But with that, let's get back into the video. The median age of the German population in 2022 is only 45.7 years old, which doesn't explain the next way in which Germans do not align with the average stereotype Americans have of Europeans, and that is that Germans eat dinner very early. Yeah, in the US, we often joke about elderly people eating dinner very early and Europeans eating super late at night. Americans have this concept that when Americans are getting ready for bed, this is when Europeans are typically sitting down to eat dinner. It's also pretty common to hear a little joke like, well, this is how
I have seen that, like, I feel like I have heard that in a couple of different videos. It's like eating dinner like late or later than what I would usually eat dinner at. And I'm like, yeah, there's been a couple videos where I'm like, shoot, I'm going to eat, and I am going to sleep at that time. So I feel like, yeah, I have heard that and probably developed that stereotype somewhat.
Europeans are typically sitting down to eat dinner. It's also pretty common to hear a little joke like, well, this is how they do it in Europe, when, for example, an American family has a busy evening and isn't able to eat dinner until like 8:30 or 9 o'clock at night. However, unlike the stereotype, Germans do not eat late at night, but rather much earlier compared to some of the later dinner eating cultures in Europe like Spain. So no, Germans don't eat as early as Americans joke that elderly people eat dinner, but they actually share the exact same average dinner time as Americans. The average American actually eats dinner around 6 to 7 p.m. according to Insider.com, and according to StokeTravel.com, Germans also sit down for their evening meals between 6 and 7 p.m. Of course, what is early and what is late is all relative, but compare this to countries like Spain or Portugal, where dinner times do typically reinforce the American perception of incredibly late dinner times, where they typically eat around 9 or 10 p.m. Yeah, Germans eat pretty early. When a European imagines the epitome of an American, they will generally imagine someone dressed extremely casually and maybe even a little bit slobbish. On the flip side, when an American imagines a stereotypical European, they imagine, well, actually something exactly like we shared on a story on our Instagram last year. Someone sipping an espresso, taking life slow, and dressed to impress. Well, I hate to break it to you, but when Americans imagine a well-dressed and bespoke European, they are not thinking of a German, because Germans are absolutely not known for their fashion sense, much like their American counterparts. To be fair, Germans won't typically be found walking around in oversized event t-shirts, baseball caps, leggings, and tennis shoes like Americans. However, they still make plenty of their own fashion faux pas and are not known by their neighboring countries as one to look up to for fashion advice. German fashion very much aligns with the generalized German outlook on life, and that being one of practicality. Germans dress for comfort, to suit the activity they're taking part in, and love some good outdoor gear. They will try and deny the socks and sandals claims, but I'm here to tell you that we see it often proudly sported. Now, Germany is sort of in a transitional period where fashion is becoming more and more valued, as we can see with the establishment of the Berlin Fashion Week in July of 2007. But if you are planning a trip to Europe and plan on wearing your cutest European outfits, don't be shocked when you arrive in Germany and see you don't fit in with the casual khaki shorts, Birkenstocks, and Jack Wolfskin jackets.
Okay. Yeah, because so many videos from my scene, I thought like everybody in Europe was just like, just going out dressed to impress. Like whether they go into the grocery store, no matter where they going, they was like dressed nicely. Whereas us, it's the athletic gear, the basketball shorts or the athletic shorts, t-shirt, and just athletic shoes, running shoes or anything, or slides or any other kind of shoe. I guess Crocs, different things like that. Yeah, we definitely dress for comfort. We definitely, and so that's a surprising one.
Birkenstocks and Jack Wolfskin jackets. What would a trip to Europe be for Americans without gorging themselves in all kinds of refined and delicious European cuisine? And many might say that they expect the quality of food to be a step up in Europe from the US. After all, if we use Michelin stars as a measuring stick for food, we can see that Europe has an exceedingly higher number of Michelin stars than the US. In fact, France alone has over 3 times more Michelin stars than the US. Italy has almost twice as many as well. Also, if we looked at Michelin-starred restaurants per capita, the US isn't even in the top 15 countries in the world, a list which is primarily comprised of, you guessed it, European countries. However, Germany is not known for their food. Well, at least not known for their fine food. Now, this may confuse you a little because actually, if we look again at our measuring stick of Michelin stars, Germany does have 305 stars compared to the US's 193, indicating that Germany has some incredible food and at a much higher rate than the US still, and therefore the American stereotype of Europeans should hold true for Germany. But if we look at the Michelin Guide's website, search for 1, 2, or 3-star restaurants in Germany, and try to filter the cuisine, you will notice there are filters for French food, creative French food, classic French food, Greek, Israeli, Italian, Japanese, and so on, but what's missing? German food. Now, once again, to be fair, Germany does have Michelin listed restaurants that have not been awarded any stars that fall under the German cuisine category though, but still, German food is far from being known as refined and cultured. In a DW article titled German Cuisine, Does It Exist and Can You Enjoy It? The author describes their experiences with German food by saying things like, many countries around the world are famous for their versatile cuisines, but Germany isn't exactly one of them. The author then goes on to describe German food as 50 shades of beige, because many famous German dishes are admittedly just pale. When we have friends ask us about our experiences with German food, I haven't personally used the word beige, although I have always described German food as a big plate of brown. So, same idea. And although the food has been described in appearance as bland and beige, German food is also somewhat famous for being afraid of spices and bland in taste. With all this
stop it. Come on, you gotta spice it up. I just be in the kitchen experimenting with spices at certain points. I just be like, experience. You know, like a scientist. Like a scientist should. If it tastes bad, we'll try again with different spices. But it definitely, that spice, I don't know. It just kicks the food off.
Also somewhat famous for being afraid of spices and bland in taste. With all this being said, it doesn't necessarily fit in the American mental image of refined European cuisine. The same article quoted German Michelin 3-star chef Joachim Wissler, who said the DNA of German culinary art is not internally famous, in part because enjoyment is not considered a German virtue, and the German high-level cuisine is completely underestimated in terms of quality and craftsmanship. It is even misunderstood at the international level. Now, all this to say, after living in Germany for a while now, we have learned about how much more diverse German cuisine is across the country than just the stereotypical foods that everybody seems to mention when they talk about Germany. All this is also not to say that German food isn't good. Speaking just for us, we love German food and love trying the vast array of German food as we travel to different parts of Germany that all have wildly distinct and unique cultures that include their food. German food, although not refined, is hearty, comforting, and still a favorite of mine. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is, what do you call the end slice of a loaf of bread? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure
I call it the butt.
to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and we will see you in our next video. Just who they are. Dang it. Did you guys hear my stomach rumble? Whoa. Ow, my back just knotted up. Okay. When we first moved to Michelin listed restaurants that have no...
Yeah, the end slice of bread, we call it like booty bread, like butt. I don't know why. It's just the environment I grew up in. That's all we got for this video. If you guys got a favorite video suggestion, you can subscribe to Patreon or drop it in the comment section. Subscribe to the channel, ring notification bell, give the video a thumbs up so it gets suggested. Social media and Patreon are all up top. You want to subscribe to any of it, put all the links in the description. All you got to do is hit the link, follow me, talk to me. Love talking to you guys. You guys are the most incredible team on YouTube. It's your boy D Neal, out.